welcome to Prenatal Yoga Part 2. So just like with any exercise program, obviously if you're pregnant, please just make sure that you check with your family doctor just to make sure any exercise program, including yoga, is safe for you. And for today's class, you are just going to need your yoga mat, a pillow if you have one. It makes for a really lovely, comfortable shavasana. If you do happen to have yoga blocks or anything that resembles blocks, those will come in handy for our starting shavasana if you are choosing to lie on your back, because they are going to provide that support. So what I like to do is place 1 or 2 blocks. A book will work, a rolled up blanket or towel placed lengthwise as well. And then you can just go ahead, place your pillow on top, and it's just going to give you some nice support, because obviously in pregnancy it's not very comfortable for you to be laying on your back for an extended period of time. Another option is simply just to remain in a seated position. Otherwise, you can come join me here. If your hips are feeling tight, go ahead, bring the soles of your feet together, knees can come apart, and you can just relax in a comfortable shavasana, taking out your hair tie if it's causing you any kind of discomfort. And another option is to just go ahead and extend your legs out as long as your lower back isn't in pain. If it is, you can bend your knees, caving them in towards one another if you have the room to do so. Otherwise, that nice reclined bound angle, or you can roll up a towel or blanket and place it underneath your knees to help tilt your pelvis up slightly. So as you start to focus on your breath, you're really gonna feel yourself sinking into your mat here. So we're starting to take those really nice, long, beautiful inhales and exhales through your nose. As you just let everything go here. Feeling the weight of the back of your hands as they melt into the earth. Unclenching your jaw, releasing your tongue from the roof of your mouth. And just letting everything go. Noticing how those in-breaths and those out-breaths feel. And noticing how and if your breathing has changed depending on what stage of your pregnancy you're in right now. Perhaps you're finding that your breaths are a little bit shorter and a little bit more shallow than they were before. And that's okay. But perhaps for today's class, you can set just a nice gentle goal for yourself to try to elongate those breaths, filling up your belly, your ribs, and your chest with as much air as you can, and then exhaling that stale air, melting into your mat once more. Staying here in your shavasana for another few breaths. Just enjoying the stillness, enjoying the calm. Remembering that this class, it's your practice, so if at any point a pose isn't feeling comfortable, please modify it using your own judgment, and knowing you always have the option of coming into either a seated or a reclined shavasana, or simply relax into a child's pose, perhaps supporting your chest and your belly with your pillow. taking one more nice big full breath here. And then slowly starting to bring movement back into your body, beginning by wiggling your fingers, wiggling your toes, starting to circle your wrists. And you can gently extend your legs out long if it's safe for you to do so, in order to circle your ankles. Finally, gently moving your head from side to side, noticing any tension you might be carrying in your neck here. And gently bending both knees, placing the soles of your feet on your mat, just about mat distance. We'll do a slow, gentle windshield wiper from side to side. Just releasing those hips slightly, remembering that in prenatal yoga, we don't want to do any twisting. So we're stopping at the point where a movement becomes a twist. A gentle stretch is okay, but we want to make sure that baby is really comfortable. We're not trying to put any pressure where there doesn't need to be any. Beautiful. From here, gently raising one arm up over your head, you're going to, as slowly as you can, roll over onto whichever side you're most comfortable on. Pause here for a moment, just signaling to your body that you're about to come up. And once you're ready, you can slowly and gently start to push yourself up, coming to meet me in a seated position. If you have that pillow, you can place it off to the side. We will be using that later. And if you're comfortable, just in a nice seat, you can go ahead and do that. If you're finding even sitting cross-legged is a lot more difficult, you can simply sit down onto your heels if this is more comfortable. So we're gonna do a nice gentle neck stretch to start. I'd like you to take your left hand, you're gonna go place it behind your back, and grabbing onto your right arm, your right bicep, placing your right hand down on your leg. From here, you're gently gonna start to bring your right ear towards your right shoulder. So you should be starting to feel that stretch alongside the left side of your neck here. And then you can play around with this pose a little bit. Maybe start to look down, noticing any tension you might be feeling here. And then maybe we start to look up slightly, remembering that right ear is still at that right shoulder. We don't want to crank anything here. One more breath. And then slowly coming back to center. From here, looking to one side, then the other a couple of times. Just loosening up any tension that you might have felt. And then we'll go ahead and switch sides. So this time your right hand comes behind your back, grabbing onto your left bicep, whatever part of your left arm you can reach, placing your left hand on your left thigh, and this time bringing that left shoulder towards your left ear. Pausing here for a moment, noticing how this is feeling, and then perhaps slowly starting to look down on a diagonal. Perhaps at this point you start to look up. Once again, left shoulder and left ear are still connected as much as you can. And then gently coming back to center, you can go ahead and release. Do a few shoulder circles here, and then looking to the right, just gonna do a gentle half circle, looking over to the left, and we'll just continue with that a few times. Never doing that full circle. We don't want to crank our necks here, but just releasing any tension. Beautiful. From here, we're just gonna come into a gentle gate pose. So, coming onto your knees. Again, if this is too much for your knees, you can place a blanket underneath, or you can double up your yoga mat. I'd like you to take your left leg, extend it out to the side. You can place your left hand along your waist, and that right arm is going to reach towards the same side as that extended leg. So just coming into a nice, gentle lat stretch here. Gaze can fall towards those right fingertips. Beautiful. Next breath, gently bring that right arm down. We'll go ahead and switch sides here. So extending that right leg out, slowly starting to lean in towards that right side. Beautiful. Connecting with that breath. Nice long deep inhales and exhales here as you look towards those left fingertips. And when you're ready, gently coming back to center. We'll meet in our tabletop as we go through a few rounds of cat-cow here. So making sure your shoulders are stacked directly over your wrists, your hips are over your knees. Gently inhale, tilting that pelvis up and back, squeezing those shoulder blades together. And then exhale as you round your upper back. Look towards, well, your belly's kind of in the way, so you're probably not looking towards your belly button, but you're going to pretend that that's exactly what you're doing. So depending on how far along you are in your pregnancy, these movements might be really small, and that's okay. Our goal is to simply bring some movement into our spine, so release any tension you're feeling there. Nice job. On your next breath, you can gently send your knees back a few inches and come up into your downward facing dog. Pausing here for a moment or two, look towards your hands and slowly walk to the top of your mat, perhaps stepping wide to make enough space for your belly. As you inhale, nice halfway lift here. And then exhale to fold, remembering a nice knee bend is okay. On your next breath, sweeping those hands all the way up to the sky. And as you exhale, bringing your hands to your heart. So from here, we're going to inhale, sweeping those hands all the way up. And then exhale, gently fold. As you inhale, come up halfway. And then as you exhale, plant your hands down, stepping that right foot back. Your right knee is going to be planted on your mat. So we're just going to come into a nice low lunge here. Hands can stay on your waist, or you have the option of lifting those arms up. So trying to push back with your left hip, forward with your right hip here. One more really nice big full breath. And then gently planting your hands, stepping that right foot to meet your left. And then you're going to go ahead and step that left foot back. Same thing on this side. Once again, arms can come up, or if your shoulders are feeling tight, you can simply connect your fists behind your back. Pulling those shoulders back and down here. And again, if you're finding there's not enough space for your belly, just simply widen your stance. So our goal is to get into our hips here. So that's where you should be feeling this. On your next breath, go ahead and plant those hands down, stepping that left foot to meet your right. As you inhale, come up halfway, and then exhale to fold. Inhale, sweeping those hands all the way up to the sky. And then as you exhale, bring your hands to heart center. From here, you're going to go ahead, step that right foot back, pivot on that right foot so it's parallel with the back edge of your mat. You're going to have a nice 90-degree bend in that front knee. Lift up those arms, coming into our warrior two. Once again, if your shoulders aren't really feeling it, simply connect behind your back. On your next breath, You're gonna inhale, straighten that front knee, touch your hands together at the top of your head, and then exhale, coming back in that warrior two. So we're gonna go through a few rotations of this. Seeing if you can sink deeper with every exhale. And then last one, holding here in that warrior, pulling those shoulders back and down. And on your next breath, you can flip your left palm, exalt your warrior. Beautiful, holding here for another breath. And then slowly coming back into your warrior two, doing a little bit of magic here. So straightening that front knee, that left knee, pivot on that left foot, pivot on that right foot, bend your right knee. You should be in your warrior two on the other side. Once again, shoulders aren't feeling it, fist bump behind your back. Otherwise, your hands are up, you're gazing over the middle finger of that right hand, pulling those shoulders back and down. On your next breath, inhale, straightening that front knee, hands connecting at the top. Exhale, warrior two. So continuing this with your nice slow breath here. Trying to make sure that that front knee isn't caving in with these movements. Last one here. And then flipping that right palm, exalting your warrior. Looking up towards those right fingertips here. Beautiful. On your next breath, you can come back into that warrior two. Go ahead and straighten that right knee. Pivot on that right foot. All 10 toes are now facing towards the front of the room. If you happen to have a block or books or something that's elevated, make sure you have it close by. We're gonna come and do a nice wide-legged forward fold, and it's really nice to have a surface to come down on. So on your inhale, you hinge at your hips, and as you exhale, you can slowly reach down. You can place your hands on your blocks, release your head, release your neck. If you'd like, you can also bend your knees here, maybe even if you're able to, grab onto your ankles. So you're going to choose what your forward fold looks like today. You can bring in some movement into your neck. You can nod your head yes. You can shake your head no. And just let everything go here. Releasing any tension you might be carrying in your shoulders, upper back and neck. Releasing tension from your spine. One more nice big full breath. And then slowly releasing your hands off the ground, off the blocks. Inhale, coming up halfway. And then exhale, coming up the rest of the way. Stepping one foot in, then the other. You can go ahead and shake it out. And for our next option, we're going to come into just a really gentle balance. So we're gonna come into our tree pose, but if you think that this is too much to do, even with a kickstand, you can go ahead and grab a chair, and I'll just demo what that looks like. So with your chair, you come into a nice figure four stretch. So one ankle is placed over top of the other knee. You're gonna get a really nice hip stretch here. So this is an option. It does feel really good if your hips are tight. So take that option if you'd like. Otherwise, you can come into whatever version of your tree pose you'd like. So I'm gonna start by putting the weight into my left foot. I'm gonna kickstand that right heel, opening up my hip here. Other option, you can slowly bring that foot up higher. You're still making sure that that knee is pointing towards the side of the room. It's not gonna be caving in. The final option is to lift up. But again, pregnancy messes with your balance a little bit. So this is our advanced option for today. You choose what you need. So holding here, whether it's in your chair, whether it's version 1, 2, or 3, and just holding here for a few breaths, just noticing how this feels. If you're feeling a little bit wobbly, perhaps changing your options here. Feeling exceptionally wobbly today, and I'm not pregnant. Beautiful. One more really nice big full inhale and exhale here. And then you can gently go ahead and release. So if you're sitting in your chair, you're going to drop your one foot down. You're going to switch sides. If you're standing with me, all the weight's going to go into your right foot. You can start with that gentle kickstand. I'm already feeling this in my hip in a good way. Other option, you can lift that foot up higher or simply push it into your inner thigh. So you're choosing what works for you. Remembering that it might not be the same thing that worked for you a few months ago, and that's okay. Adapt as needed. Few more breaths on this side. Making sure if you're sitting in the chair, you're still sitting nice and tall. We're not hunched over. We're pulling our shoulders back and down regardless. One more nice big full breath. And then you can slowly go ahead and release. If you're sitting in a chair, come on up. You can gently move your chair out of the way. And from here, making your way down into a nice seated position, grabbing your blocks if you have them. We're gonna come into a nice seated forward fold. Obviously, legs are gonna be spread apart just to make room for your belly. You can start with a nice big inhale here, and then exhale as you gently start to release. Maybe putting your head on a block or two, just depending on how flexible you're feeling today. You want to release your neck here. That's why having blocks or books is really handy. So we're not holding our necks up. One more nice big full breath. And then slowly starting to stack your spine, rolling up one vertebrae at a time. For our final pose, you're gonna decide what that's gonna look like for you, just depending on how you're feeling right now. So for some of us, if your hips are still tight, maybe even just a simple windshield wiper from side to side will do the trick. We are going to be coming into that final Shavasana. So this is a great opportunity to put socks back on, grab a blanket, and once again, do any final movements that you need, perhaps pausing the video in order to do so. I am going to give you a couple of options for your Shavasana. It's going to vary based on how far along you are. Option one is to end the same way we started, with a nice elevated slope here, really comfortable for your back. Another option for you is to either do legs up the wall or legs up the block. So essentially, you're going to be lying down, and then if you have a block, just placing it As far up as it'll go, legs are just gonna come up and stay up here. So this is far more comfortable to do on a wall, so remember that's your option. Otherwise, you can stay right here. So you're going to choose what works best for you. The final option is to join me in a seated Shavasana. So starting to make your way there now, I want you to reconnect with that breath. So slowing down your breathing. Once again, finding those inhales and those exhales. Pulling those shoulders back and down regardless of where you are right now, whether it's on your back or in a seated position with me. And for one last time, just let everything go. I invite you to stay in your Shavasana today for as long as you wish. I only ask that when you do finally decide to come up, you do so mindfully, carefully, and safely, rolling over to one side first before coming all the way up. I'd like to sincerely thank each and every one of you for allowing me to guide you through your prenatal practice today. From the bottom of my heart and from my energy to yours, namaste.